Episode 17 Children's Dolls. Greetings and welcome back, dearest listeners. You've returned to my dark and sordid little corner of the internet. My name is Jessi, and I'm here to share the esoteric and strange encounters everyday people have. So sit back, put your feet up, and listen to today's saga. February 29th, 1980. I'm assuming that these certain dates are dates of the reports, since some of these, like you'll see with this one, happen over multiple days. Perhaps someone doing preternatural research before me wanted to help future researchers. Look, I know I agreed to talk to you, but I still don't know who you are or what you want really. I only agreed because Jane vouched for you. Said you took her story and believed her, the marionette in red. Truth to be told, I didn't believe her. Not before. It just seemed so outlandish. The kind of thing a kid would say was in their closet, but now... Okay, look, I'll talk to you, but the moment I think you're not taking it serious, I walk. Got it? I'm not going to be labeled, least of all by some vulture newsreel wannabe. Sorry, I'm still a little shaken. I have two kids, and I'm terrified of one. I think she's the Antichrist. I never used to be religious, but now I'd go to church every day if it would let me. Okay, I should probably back up a bit. My name is Rachel, and I have one kid that I raised. This is important. Her name is Veronica, and she's been my little angel for going on 7 years now. Her father and I divorced about a year ago, and while it was smooth and amicable, we both know it's hard on the children of separated and divorced parents, so we try to make sure she has everything she needs at both houses. And on weekends, when she swaps houses, we tend to spoil her a little. We take her shopping, take her to restaurants, sometimes go garage sailing. Some finds are better than others. I think she just enjoys that we all go, since neither her father nor I have any other partners. We try to stay civil, So it was on one of these weekends that we found it. I refuse to call it a her. A Raggedy Anne doll in decent condition. The person at the garage sale seemed a little strange to me, called himself Anton Scrivener, and said that this was a special doll, one that would make Veronica very happy. I didn't really think about it at the time, but for the life of me, I cannot remember when we said her name in front of him. But he talked to us like a salesman, like one of those door-to-door ones, which even then I found odd for a garage sale. But Veronica was smitten with the doll from the moment he showed it to her. She looked at us both with the biggest puppy dog eyes she's ever had and begged for it. Said she wouldn't ask for anything else for a month if we got her this doll. On a side note, for a whole month, she did not ask for anything. We got it for just under $3, which I thought was an okay price for it. What was weird was that he didn't even try to haggle us up. He'd said $5 to begin with, but when we countered with $2.75, he immediately agreed. We gave him the coins and promptly put him out of our mind as we headed to drop Veronica off with her dad. She took her doll with her, of course, and I enjoyed my free weekend. When she came back, nothing was odd or unusual. She said her doll preferred the name Susie and was her best friend. I smiled and said hi to Susie and let her play a bit before bed. At bedtime, she insisted that Susie should sleep with her and that I should tuck her in. It was the first time that she'd been so taken with a toy, so I found it odd, but I know at her age, I had my own little binky, so I just did as she asked. Tucked her in, gave her a kiss on the forehead as well as Susie. I swear the smile on the doll widened, but at the time I just dismissed it. I'd heard Jane's story, obviously, but I didn't believe it then, so it didn't even cross my mind at the time. I spent most of that night awake, for some reason unable to sleep. I didn't have work the next day, so I wasn't too worried about my lack of sleep, but it was annoying all the same. I got up at one point just to warm some milk with honey and found Susie in the hall. It was sitting against the wall as if placed there on purpose. I picked it up, making a mental note to scold Veronica for being out of her room in the middle of the night. I put the doll back beside her in the bed and went to the kitchen. Got my milk and honey, sipped it for a while, then decided to head back upstairs and try to rest. Susie was there again, same place, same position. Now I was angry, so I stormed to my daughter's room, certain she was faking sleep. I woke her, now I know she was sleeping, but I didn't at the time, and yelled at her about walking around at night when she was supposed to be sleeping, especially on a school night. She tried to tell me she hadn't gone anywhere, she'd been sleeping the whole time, and I confronted her about the doll. She paled. At the time I thought it was because she'd been caught. I know better now. She tried to tell me that Susie liked to get up and walk around, all on her own. I told her not to lie, and that it was fine to play pretend, but bedtime meant bedtime. At the time, I thought it was unusual, since we hadn't had trouble with her sleeping at night since she was 2. I thought maybe her father had let her stay up or something. I resolved to call him in the next morning. I told Veronica to get back to sleep, and that I was taking Susie until the morning when she could have her back. She tried to argue, but I stood firm and left to go to my room. Susie caught on the door for a moment, and I had to yank on it, something that I thought was really weird, since I was certain there was nothing for it to get caught on, but it was really late, and I just wanted to try to sleep again. So I went to my room and locked the door. I know I locked it. I know I did. I did get to sleep, with Susie just tossed in the corner of the room. The next morning, I got up with the alarm, and my door was open. I was a little surprised. I knew I'd locked it. I got up and dressed, forgetting to grab the doll, and headed to go wake Veronica. Sure enough, Susie was there, propped against the wall again. This time, I knew something was off. Veronica, she's a smart kid, but not picking the lock smart. Had someone broken in? I rushed to her room and found her asleep before the absurdity of someone breaking in just to move a doll hit me. I shook my head and woke her up, told her it was time to get ready for school. She was groggy, but I thought it was because she'd been up half the night. She slowly got ready, and I made some pancakes for breakfast. She ate slowly too, and I took her to the bus. She gave me a hug and went to school. I went back in, and Susie was there on the table. I jumped. I know she'd still been upstairs. Veronica hadn't brought her down, and neither of us had been back up since. I didn't know how I rationalized it. I don't even think I did. I just grabbed the doll and put it in her room and made sure to close the door. And that was it. I went about my day, picked Veronica up from the bus stop, and we went home. I helped her with her homework and was making dinner when she asked about Susie. I told her I put her in her room. I didn't bother bringing up finding her on the table. I'd actually kind of forgotten about it. And I didn't want to punish her twice, so I didn't bring up her staying up. She asked if she could go get her, and I said sure, but the doll wasn't to be at the dinner table during supper. That was a rule both her father and I held fast to. Toys don't belong at the dinner table. She brought it down and I gasped. The doll, which as you know, sewn and stuffed with button eyes and a smile made of fabric, was scowling. And not even in the way you'd expect something of cloth to look. No, it was an almost human face with facial muscles in its cheeks and its jaw, and it was angry. Veronica looked upset, said that Susie told her I was mean and had locked her up all day. At this point, I was a little past thinking Veronica was somehow responsible. I stuttered for a second before just a simple, "What?" left my lips. That's when it happened. The haunted thing turned its head to me, and though its lips didn't move, I knew it was speaking to my daughter. I couldn't hear it, but her face was on the edge of crying. She said that Susie wanted to be her sister, and that I had to be better as a mom. I was thrown for a moment, as this is not something anyone can really prepare you for. My mind raced. Should I call the police, her father, drive to that house that had the garage sale? I think I stood frozen for a few moments before it spoke to Veronica again. I could see that she was trying to push the doll away, but it clung to her like it was stuck with glue. I rushed over to try to help, but it was like I wasn't even there. The doll simply wouldn't budge. Veronica started bawling at this point, and I saw the scowl turn to a more menacing grin. I tugged harder on the monstrous thing, and it came loose, and Veronica tumbled back. I told her to go wait in her room. We'd have dinner soon. She nodded and ran. The doll looked at me, that scowled back. I was struck with just how crazy everything was, all of this. I grabbed a kitchen knife, stabbed it over and over and over. I'm not crazy, I swear, but in that moment, there was a sort of mania that gripped me, and I wanted to make sure it was dead and stayed that way, whatever this thing was. By the time I was done, the doll was little more than stuffing and bits of cloth on the floor. I grabbed the vacuum and got it all up, then threw the bag in the trash and threw the trash outside. I called Veronica down and we ate in a scared silence. To be truthful, we both just picked at it, neither of us feeling particularly hungry after that. We went to bed early and I let her sleep in the bed with me. She fell asleep first, and I could see that she was still very upset even in her dreams. At least it's over, I remember thinking. I'm not sure when I fell asleep, but it was still dark when I awoke. I'm not too sure what woke me up, as Veronica was still asleep next to me and the house seemed silent. I was hoping the whole day previous was nothing more than a dream, a twisted nightmare somehow. But then my door, which I hadn't locked this time, slowly opened. There was no sound. My door normally has a creak to it. There was nothing. No light coming from the hall, no squeak of the hinges. I'm not even sure how I saw the door move in the dark. I think it wanted me to see it. I didn't see it come in, but somehow I knew it was there. I didn't know where in the room, just that it was there. Then it was on the bed. The smallest weight, the smallest difference. Then its face was in mine. "You'd kill your own daughter?" It spoke. It spoke in a child's voice, but with the most horrid tone. Like a kid trying to sound like a serial killer. I couldn't move, couldn't fling the tiny monster away, couldn't scream. I managed to get an arm over Veronica, but that thing's grin grew until it took up almost the entire face. "Don't worry, I'd never hurt my own sister." It left the room and closed the door. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next few days were somehow the longest and shortest of my life. The thing calling itself Susie walked to the bus with us, and everyone there knew her by name, acted like it was my daughter since birth. It went to school, came home with homework that it did with Veronica. Then the thing went to Veronica's father's on the weekend. and it turned out the same thing had happened at his house, and he was just as spooked. Apparently, he'd wanted to tell me the previous weekend, but knew just how crazy it sounded. He'd hoped he really was crazy, that he was dreaming. I wish we both were. Neither of us sleep much. I drink so much coffee every day that I have these bags the size of mountains under my eyes. Every night the thing comes to my room, stands over me, and says, "Good night, Mommy." I don't know what to do. I talked to Jane, and while she thinks Susie is just my daughter, she knew what it was like to not be believed. So she sent me your way. The saga ends there, listeners, but what I find interesting is the follow-up here included with the report. Subject was in a state of extreme duress during the statement process and left while begging for help. Immediate measures are recommended. Then underneath that is a stamp. It just says, "Case closed" in big red letters. Did the investigators deal with this Susie somehow? Or is Rachel still trapped with what sounds a lot like a premise for a jump scare horror movie? There's a lot here that I'm questioning, and a lot that I think might never get an answer. Did the doll alter people's memories? And why not do that with the parents and the daughter? Did it want them to know, to be afraid? Now this brings to mind movies like Chucky, The Exorcist, The Poltergeist. The twisting of things that are supposed to be innocent, such as a child's doll, is something that, while it seems new and modern, occasional scraps of stories from centuries and even millennia ago belie that. Times like this, with what little we know from past sagas, I find myself wondering how many of these events, these monsters, these powers, are just on the edge of the veil. How many are little individuals and how many are simply smaller minions of larger or more powerful beings? And once more, this Anton Scrivener selling these cursed wares. What is it that he wants? What does he get out of all of this? Questions, questions, and more questions. Did this tale tempt you over to the side of the Dark Wanderers, dear listeners? Or do you remain steadfast in your belief that the world is exactly as it appears, and nothing more? As always, thank you for indulging me in my strange habit here. And until the next, let's cross that veil together.